Okay, so what we're going to look at is going to be percent word problems, pretty much. So percent word problems generally come in the form of what is blank percent of blah number, or what percent of blah number is blah number, or blah number is blank percent of what number. So those type of questions. Or if you are trying to figure out, hey, what is the rate in which you're charging me for this? What is that percent rate? Um, Even though I know what my final amount is, I know what my original amount is. Or if, hey, I got some kind of discount, I want to know what the percentage is so I can see how much this other thing is going to cost. And I know how much when I say I rank something up and it came out to be a certain price, but it was listed to be a different amount to start off with, then I can use these type of equations to find out, hey, what did I start off with? So I've written a couple things up here. First of all, we have rate, base, and percentage. Those are the three components that you'll have to figure out what goes where in every problem you do when it involves these type of equations, or when it involves percentages and you're trying to find other pieces of the puzzle. So the rate is going to actually be a percent. It's the amount that you're taking out. It's that fractional amount that you're taking out, or that proportion amount you're taking out. For example, if I said, what is 25% of 120, the 25% would be the rate. If I said, what percent of 48 is 12, we will be looking for the rate in that question because we don't know what the percent was. If I say 60 is 30% of what number, the 30% would be the rate. Okay. So the base is called base because it's the starting place. It's what you start off with. It's that original amount. So if I said, what is 25% of 120? 120 would be the base because that's what we're starting out at, and we're going to take 25% of it. If I say, what percent of 48 is 12? The 48 would be what we're starting at. 12 would be our final result that we end up getting, and the percent will be, again, what we were looking for. So if I say 60 is 30% of what number, I don't know what the number was to start off with. If I can figure it out, the number that we started off with, that what number would be the base. Notice how all of these come after the word of. Of is going to be a key word when it comes to doing these. Okay. For finding the percent, for finding the rate, the key word will be, you'll see the percent symbol, or it'll say what percent of something. Okay. So the last thing left will be the percentage. Do not confuse the percentage to be the rate. A lot of people do that. The percentage is how much is left over after you take the percent, after you take the rate. That's why I say percentage, because it's after you do the actual percent part. It's the portion of the base. How much of the base did you use when you did the percent? Does the result have to be smaller than the start value? No, it could be larger. For instance, if I had 12 students pass last semester, and I say that this semester we have a 200% increase, well, that would mean that we have 200% of what happened last time. 100% was 12, 200% will be 24. So we have 24 students passing this time. It's okay for the percentage or the result to be larger than what you had as the original amount. In that case, that means that the percent or the rate needed to be larger than 100. It's very important to keep in mind. So let's look at let's talk about some example problems. And we're going to do those three that I keep saying over and over again. So first one, what is 25% of 120? Well, we don't know what the result is. We don't know what the percentage is. That's what we're being asked to find. Okay, in the question, what percent of 48 is 12? Well, we already said 48 was the starting amount. 12 is the ending amount. That's our result. That's our portion of the base that we're looking at. So that's my percentage in that problem. Lastly, 60 is 30% of what number? Well, that 60 is the portion. It's the result that we got when we took 30% of something. Okay. Notice that all of these words are followed by or come right before the word is, because that's our answer. Okay. Of also tells you to multiply. It's a key word for multiplying. And so that's why of is used to represent the base and comes before it, because you're going to multiply it times some rate. Is a keyword used for a result. And it comes, see how this follows after it equals? because it is our result. Okay. Well, it's still those three problems that we've been saying over and over again. So if I want to know what is 25% of 120? Okay, what is? I don't know what is. So that must be my result. See how it comes after or before is? Okay. 25% is obviously a rate because it is a percent that's given to us. So I would have 25% times whatever the base is. Well, the base coming after the word of, our starting value is 120. And I just need to find out what is the result. Okay, so I'm looking at what's 25% of 120. Well, let's say I don't know what that is, and let's say my calculator doesn't have a percent button. How can I enter this in? Well, we talked before about how to change these into fractions and how to change them into decimals. And it's also a very common fraction that's used. That's why you were given a list of common fractions in their conversions from decimal to percentage so that you become aware of them and how to use them quickly. So many of you actually probably already know what 25% is. Let's do it as a fraction, just because I think in this case, that'll make it a lot easier to solve this problem. So if we do that as a fraction, that's going to be 1/4 of times 120. Remember, of also means multiplication. So if we did that, we would just get 120 over 4, because when you multiply fractions, multiply numerator times numerator, denominator times, there is no denominator there. Yes, there is. Remember, we talked about this before. You can put it over 1. So this is really asking us 120 divided by 4. Well, how many times does 4 go into 120? 4 goes into 12 3 times, so we have that 0 there. So really, it's just 30. That's quite simple. So 30 is our percentage. We start off with what is 25% of 120? Well, the result, or the percentage, is 30. 25 was our rate. 120 was our base. Our percentage is 30. Okay, that's quite simple. All right, that one's straightforward. You just multiply and find your answer. Okay, well, let's look at another example here. What if instead I wanted to know what percent of 48 is 12? What percent of 48 is 12? Well, my percentage, I don't know. It's a mystery. My base amount, how much I started with, see how it's coming again after the word of? It's going to be 48. And lastly, my result then would be 12. Okay. So the question is, what percent of 48 is 12? That might be a little tough for some of you to figure out. Well, when we multiply these two numbers together, we get 12. What can we multiply times 48 to get 12? Okay, maybe you're still having trouble figuring it out. Well, this is a proportion, right? Because it has to be, because even in our definition of a percentage, it's a portion of the base. So this has to do something with proportions. And when we work with proportions, we saw that when two of them were next to each other, as one goes up, the other goes down, because this stays constant. Well, how do we find the other one? Well, in the notes and in the video, what you saw you could do was, we can just take the one we're looking for, set it equal to the constant, divided by the other number. So the percent is going to be whatever 12 over 48 is, which you can reduce by dividing both parts by 12, and we end up with 1/4. Oh, we just saw 1/4 earlier, right? So 1/4 is our answer. However, we want to know what the rate is. We want to know what percent. So we have to convert this to a percent. And this is another common one. And we just saw it here, so I'll just go ahead and write it. It's 25%. Okay, if you have trouble converting from fractions to decimals, go look at the converting between percents, decimals, and fractions video. Okay. All right. So that's all we need to do in order to find the percent if we know the base and we know the percentage. We take the percentage and divide by the base. because this should tell us what fraction we use to solve the answer. So this was our ending result. This was our total amount. So our ending result over the total amount will give us what fraction we took of it. That makes sense, right? If I have pie and I split it up into 6 slices and I eat 2 slices, I want to know how much did I eat out of it. Well, I ate 2 out of the 6. The result, which I knew was 2, the total amount was 6. The result over the total will give me my fraction that I ate. It'll give me my percentage that I ate. All right, let's do one more problem involving these type of word problems. And it's the other example you could get. So we saw how to solve for percent. We saw how to solve for percentage. Let's look at, or we saw how to solve for rate, and we saw how to solve for percentage. Let's see how to solve for base. Well, 60 is 30% of what number? Okay. So we have our rate here, obvious because it's a percent there. So we got 30%. Okay. Times a base that we don't know. We don't know what the number is. It says of what? We don't know. Equals is right after that 60. That must have been our result we got. Okay. So 30% times some number equals 60. So we just need to know 30% of what gives you 60. All right, that's fair enough. That's pretty simple. Well, to make things easier, we can change this to a decimal or we can change it to a fraction. Let's change again to a fraction because it's a common one. 30% can be written as 3/10. Now this looks similar to the last one. One of the unknowns is on this side, on the side where you would have an indirectly proportional problem and a constant. How did we solve for those? That's right, we divided the number on the other side into the constant. So to find out what the base is, it would just be 60 divided by 3/10. Okay, we have to divide fractions. That's given to you in another video. If you need to go back and review, you can. This is when we're doing operations with fractions, specifically dividing. So to divide with fractions, just in case you forgot, we take the first one and we keep it the same, and we'll multiply by the reciprocal of the second one, meaning the flipping the second one. So this would be 10 over 3. And if we were to do that, we would get 600 over 3, which is the same as just having 200. So this would be 200. And you can check the math for that yourself, and you can practice with that in another video. So that's it. Whenever you have a problem that involves a rate, a base, and a percentage, and you have to find one of the unknowns, you're really just doing a proportion problem. And you can use the things you use when solving direct and indirect proportions, or you can do what we just did in this video. So important things to remember again, that a rate is a percent that's given to you, so it'll be after a percent sign. Sometimes they may not even put a percent there, they'll just say 0.25 of, or they'll say, give you a fraction. It's like, hey, it's 1/4 of something. Your base will be followed by the word of. It's your starting value, your original amount. Your percentage is your result, or it's the portion of the base that you're looking for. Okay, it'll be followed by the word is. All right, so that's rate times base equals percentage, and I will see you all very, 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 very